Loss. That's where this story starts, not with a lesson, not with a quote, with loss the kind most of us pray we never have to face. In 1942, a man was stripped of everything he owned. His clothes, his wedding ring, even the manuscript of the book he'd spent his entire life writing, torn from his hands and thrown into a fire. He lost his wife, his parents, his brother, almost everyone he loved. If it had been you, if it had been me, would there have been anything left worth living for? And yet, years later, this same man would come to a conclusion that quietly reshaped modern psychology. He came to believe that even when a person has lost everything else, there is one thing that can never be taken from them: the freedom to choose how they respond to what happens to them. His name was Viktor Frankl. But here's the question that should actually stop you. What if everything you're chasing right now, the job, the relationship, the applause, the escape, isn't actually what makes you happy at all? What if happiness was never something you could chase down directly, and the people who found it stumbled onto it by accident while looking for something else entirely? That's exactly what Frankl discovered. Not in a lecture hall, not in a self-help book. He discovered it in the one place on earth designed to destroy any reason a person might have to keep living. And what he came back with didn't just help him survive. It rewired how an entire generation of psychologists understood happiness itself, because Frankl came back from hell with a strange, almost offensive claim. Happiness was never the point. Meaning was. Today, we're going to unpack exactly what he meant by that, and why it might be the most important idea you've never fully understood. But before we get back to Frankl, let's stay in the present for a second, because odds are you already know this feeling, even if you've never put a name to it. Here's something strange about happiness. The harder most of us chase it, the further it seems to run. We buy the thing, we take the trip, we get the promotion, and for a moment it's good, and then it isn't. Psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called the hedonic treadmill, the idea that no matter how much pleasure we accumulate, we adapt, and we're right back where we started, just quieter, a little more tired. So if pleasure isn't the answer, what is? That's the exact question Viktor Frankl was forced to answer, and not from a place of comfort, but from the very bottom of human suffering. Before the war, Frankl was already a rising psychiatrist in Vienna. He'd trained under some of the biggest names in early psychology, and he was developing his own theory, one that quietly disagreed with the giants of his field. Freud believed we're driven by a will to pleasure. Adler believed we're driven by a will to power. Frankl believed both were missing something. He thought the deepest human drive wasn't pleasure or power at all. It was a will to meaning, a hunger to feel that our life and even our suffering counts for something. Then the war came, and Frankl's theory was put through the worst laboratory imaginable. Inside the camps, he watched something that fascinated him as much as it broke his heart. The people who survived psychologically, not just physically, weren't always the strongest or the healthiest. They were the ones who still had something to live for, a person waiting for them at home, a piece of work left unfinished, a belief they refused to let go of. Frankl later put it simply. In his own words, a person who has a reason to live can endure almost any kind of suffering along the way. Here's the core idea distilled. Pleasure is a feeling. It shows up and it leaves. You can't hold on to it. By definition, pleasure is temporary, reactive, dependent on circumstances. Meaning is different. Meaning isn't a feeling at all. It's a relationship between you and something bigger than your current mood. A purpose, a person, a responsibility, a story you're still writing. And this is the part that sounds almost backwards. Frankl argued that meaning can coexist with suffering in a way pleasure never can. You cannot feel pleasure while suffering, but you absolutely can feel meaning while suffering. A parent exhausted from sleepless nights with a newborn, a student grinding through years of hard study, even unimaginably, a prisoner in a concentration camp who still felt his life had purpose. That's why chasing happiness directly so often fails. You're chasing a feeling that evaporates the moment life gets hard. But meaning doesn't ask for easy conditions. It can survive, even grow, inside hardship. This became the foundation of Frankl's entire approach to therapy, which he called logotherapy, from the Greek word logos, meaning meaning itself. And here's where Frankl says something that still catches people off guard, even decades later. Not because happiness doesn't matter, but because the question itself points you in the wrong direction, toward a feeling you're told to chase, instead of a life you're meant to build. So if that's the wrong question, here's the one Frankl thought we should be asking instead. So if meaning is the real goal, where do we actually find it? Frankl narrowed it down to 3 paths. First, through work or achievement, creating something, contributing something, doing work that matters to you, even in a small way. Second, through love, genuinely encountering another person, caring about someone or something outside yourself. And third, the one that changed everything for Frankl, through suffering itself. Not suffering for its own sake. Frankl wasn't romanticizing pain. He was pointing at something more precise. When suffering is unavoidable, the way we carry it becomes its own form of meaning. In Frankl's view, once we can no longer change what's happening to us, we're faced with a different task, changing ourselves in response to it. This is the part of Frankl's philosophy that tends to stop people in their tracks. He's not telling you to seek out suffering. He's telling you that even when suffering finds you, even when you have zero control over your circumstances, you still retain control over your response. That response, that stance you take, is where he believed joy could quietly begin to return. You probably don't live in a concentration camp. Most of us don't. But most of us do live inside a quieter, more modern version of the same problem. Burnout without purpose, comfort without depth, endless stimulation without a single why strong enough to hold it all together. Frankl's insight isn't just historical trivia. It's a direct challenge to the way most of us are quietly living, chasing feelings that vanish, instead of building a life anchored to something that doesn't. Think of someone going through something like this right now. A diagnosis nobody wants to hear. Chemotherapy, hospital rooms, the kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep. There's no version of that story where pleasure shows up on schedule. The vacations get canceled. The good days get rarer. And yet, again and again in stories just like this, people describe something unexpected. Not happiness, exactly. Something steadier. A closeness with the people around them they hadn't felt in years. A sudden clarity about what actually matters. A reason to get through the next appointment, the next week, the next month. That's not a coincidence. That's Frankl's idea. playing out in an ordinary life right now, maybe in a house near yours. So the practical question becomes simple, even if it isn't easy. Where is your meaning coming from right now? Your work? The people you love? Or something difficult you're currently carrying that might, quietly, be shaping you more than you realize? Frankl never promised that meaning would erase suffering. He wasn't selling a shortcut to happiness. What he offered was something sturdier, the idea that joy isn't something you chase and catch. It's something that quietly grows in the soil of a meaningful life, even a life that includes real pain. Not happiness first, meaning first, joy eventually as a byproduct. That's the journey Viktor Frankl walked. Through the worst conditions a human being can survive and back out the other side, not with an answer to why suffering exists, but with an answer to what to do about it. We began this story with one word, loss. We end it with another, meaning. And maybe that's where your journey back to joy begins too.